auriculcum, a kind of copper metal mixed with gold. The king's name of this place was Guacanagari, who had many powerful lords, some whereof were not unknown to me, under his subjection. The first that landed in this kingdom, when he discovered America, was an admiral well stricken in years, who had so hospitable and kind a reception from the aforesaid Guacanagari, as well as those Spaniards that accompanied him in that voyage, giving them all imaginable help and assistance, for the admiral's vessel was sunk on their coasts, that I heard it from his own mouth, he could not possibly have been entertained with greater caresses and civilities from his own parents in his own native country. But this king, being forced to fly to avoid Spanish slaughter and cruelty, deprived of all he was master of, died in the mountains, and all the rest of the potentates and nobles, his subjects, perished in that servitude and vassalage, as you shall find in this following treatise. The third kingdom was distinguished by the appellation of Maquana, another admirable, healthful, and fruitful region, where at present the most refined sugar of the island is made. Caonabo then reigned there, who surmounted all the rest in power, state, and the splendid ceremonies of his government. This king, beyond all expectation, was surprised in his own palace by the great subtlety and industry of the Spaniards, and after carried on board in order to his transportation to Castile, but there being at that time 6 ships riding in the haven, and ready to set sail, such an impetuous storm suddenly arose, that they, as well as the passengers and ship's crew, were all lost, together with King Canabao, loaded with irons, by which judgment the Almighty declared that this was as unjust and impious an act as any of the former. This kind had 3 or 4 brothers then living, men of strength and valor, who, being highly incensed at the captivity of their king and brother, to which he was injuriously reduced, having also intelligence of the devastations and butcheries committed by the Spaniards in other regions, and not long after hearing of their brother's death, took up arms to revenge themselves of the enemy, whom the Spaniards met with, and certain party of horse, which proved very offensive to the Indians, made such havoc and slaughter among them, that the half of this kingdom was laid waste and depopulated. Xaraqua is the 4th kingdom, and as it were the center and middle of the whole island, and is not to be equaled for fluency of speech and politeness of idiom or dialect by any inhabitants of the other kingdoms, and in policy and morality transcends them all. Herein the lords and peers abounded, and the very populace excelled in stature and habit of body. Their king was Behechio by name, and who had a sister called Anacaona, and both the brother as well as sister had loaded the Spaniards with benefits and singular acts of civility, and by delivering them from the evident and apparent danger of death, did signal services to the Castilian kings. Behechio dying, the supreme power of the kingdom fell to Anacaona. But it happened one day that the governor of an island, attended by 60 horse and 30 foot, now the cavalry was sufficiently able to unpeople not only the isle, but also the whole continent, he summoned about 300 dynastas or noblemen to appear before him, and commanded the most powerful of them, being first crowded into a thatched barn or hovel, to be exposed to the fury of the merciless fire, and the rest to be pierced with lances, and run through with the point of the sword, by a multitude of men. And Anacaona herself, who, as we said before, swayed the imperial scepter to her greater honor, was hanged on a gibbet. And if it fell out that any person instigated by compassion or covetousness did entertain any Indian boys and mount them on horses to prevent their murder, another was appointed to follow them, who ran them through the back or in the hinder parts, and if they chanced to escape death and fall to the ground, they immediately cut off his legs, and when any of those Indians that survived these barbarous massacres betook themselves to an isle 8 miles distant to escape their butcheries, they were then committed to servitude during life. The fifth kingdom was Hique, over whom Queen Hiquanama, a superannuated princess, whom the Spaniards crucified, did preside and govern. The number of those I saw here burnt and dismembered and racked with various torments, as well as others, the poor remnants of such matchless villainies, who surviving were enslaved, is infinite. But because so much might be said concerning the assassinations and depopulating of these people as cannot without great difficulty be published in writing, nor do I conceive that one fragile part of 1,000 that is here contained can be fully displayed, I will only add one remark more of the pre-mentioned wars, in lieu of a corollary or conclusion, and aver upon my conscience that notwithstanding all the above named injustice, profligate enormities, and other crimes which I omit, though sufficiently known to me, the Indians did not, nor was it in their power to give any greater occasion for the commission of them, than pious religiosos living in a well-regulated monastic life did afford for any sacrilegious villains to deprive them of their goods and life at the same time, or why they who by flight avoided death should be detained in perpetual, not to be ransomed, captivity and slavery. I add farther that I really believe and am satisfied by certain undeniable conjectures that at the very juncture of time when all these outrages were committed in this isle, the Indians were not so much guilty of one single mortal sin of commission against the Spaniards that might deserve from any man revenge or require satisfaction. And as for those sins, the punishment whereof God hath reserved to himself, as the immoderate desire of revenge, hatred, envy, or inward rancor of spirit, to which they might be transported against such capital enemies as the Spaniards were, I judge that very few of them can justly be accused of them, for their impetuosity and vigor, I speak experimentally, was inferior to that of children of 10 or 12 years of age, and this I can assure you, that the Indians had ever a just cause of raising war against the Spaniards, and the Spaniards on the contrary never raised a just war against them, but what was more injurious and groundless than any undertaken by the worst of tyrants. All which I affirm of all their other transactions and passages in America. The warlike engagements being over, and the inhabitants all swept away, they divided among themselves the young men, women, and children, reserved promiscuously for that purpose. One obtained 30, another 40. To this man 100 were disposed, to the other 200. And the more one was in favor with the domineering tyrant, which they styled governor, the more he became master of, upon this pretense, and with this proviso, that he should see them instructed in the Catholic religion, when as they themselves to whom they were committed to be taught, and the care of their souls instructed them were, for the major part, idiots, cruel, avaricious, infected and stained with all sorts of vices. And this was the great care they had of them. They sent the males to the mines to dig and bring away the gold, which is an intolerable labor, but the women they made use of to manure and till the ground, which is a toil most irksome even to men of the strongest and most robust constitutions, allowing them no other food but herbage and such kind of unsubstantial nutriment, so that the nursing women's milk was exsicated and so dried up that the young infants lately brought forth all perished, and females being separated from and debarred cohabitation with men, there was no prolification or raising up issue among them. The men died in mines, hunger starved and oppressed with labor, and the women perished in the fields. harassed and broken with the like evils and calamities. Thus an infinite number of inhabitants that formerly peopled this island were exterminated and dwindled away to nothing by such consumptions. They were compelled to carry burthens of 80 or 100 pound weight, and that an 100 or 200 miles complete, and the Spaniards were borne by them on the shoulders in a pensile vehicle or carriage, or kind of beds made of net work by the Indians, for in truth they made use of them as beasts to carry the burthens and cumbersome baggage of their journeys, insomuch that it frequently happened that the shoulders and backs of the Indians were deeply marked with their scourges and stripes, just as they used to serve a tired jade, accustomed to burthens. And as to those slashes with whips, blows with staves, cuffs and boxes, maledictions and curses, with 1,000 of such kind of torments they suffered during the fatigue of their laborious journeys, it would require a long tract of time, and many reams of paper to describe them, and when all were done, would only create horror and consternation in the reader. But here is observable that the desolation of these isles and provinces took beginning since the decease of the most serene Queen Isabella, about the year 1504, for before that time very few of the provinces situated in that island were oppressed or spoiled with unjust wars, or violated with general devastation, as after they were, and most, if not all these things were concealed and masked from the Queen's knowledge, whom I hope God hath crowned with eternal glory, for she was transported with fervent and wonderful zeal, nay, almost divine desires for the salvation and preservation of these people, which things so exemplary as these, we having seen with our eyes, and felt with our hands, cannot easily be forgotten. Take this also for a general rule, that the Spaniards upon what American coasts soever they arrived, exercised the same cruelties, slaughters, tyrannies, and detestable oppressions on the most innocent Indian nation, and diverting themselves with delight in new sorts of torment, did in time improve in barbarism and cruelty, wherewith the omnipotent being incensed suffered them to fail by a more desperate and dangerous lapse into a reprobate state. End of section 3. Section 4 of a brief account of the destruction of the Indies. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Arnie Horton. A brief account of the destruction of the Indies by Bartolome de las Casas, translator unknown. Section 4 of the Isles of St. John and Jamaica. In the year 1509 the Spaniards sailed to the islands of St. John and Jamaica, resembling Ardenza and beehives. With the same purpose and design they proposed to themselves in the Isle of Hispaniola, perpetrating innumerable robberies and villainies as before, whereunto they added unheard of cruelties by murdering, burning, roasting, and exposing men to be torn to pieces by dogs, and finally by afflicting and harassing them with unexampled oppressions and torments in the mines. They spoiled and unpeopled this country of these innocents. These two isles containing 600,000 at least, though at this day there are scarce 200 men to be found in either of them, the remainder perishing without the knowledge of Christian faith or sacrament. End of section 4. Section 5 of a brief account of the destruction of the Indies. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Arnie Horton. A brief account of the destruction of the Indies by Bartolome de las Casas.